Yeah, guys, welcome to our bonus podcast. And as you can see, Donatas is not here with us today, but you must congratulate Rytis with winning this best sports commentator. Not only basketball, but sports, because he commentates also a lot of football. And you could sense probably that you are going to win when they told you just be there. That was my remark from your monologue.
It's like, an MVP vote. And if somebody sends you an email saying you must be at the ceremony, you probably have a sniff at winning that award. So yeah, I definitely thought I was there for the reason. But I always try to be humble, and I'm thinking like today in Lithuanian media, we have so many people to choose from: commentators, podcasters, journalists, they're delivering various content, and you can watch sports on so many different platforms. And like back in the days, you had 2 commentators in the whole country, and you had 2 broadcasts per week. And definitely Lithuanian people, I can feel that they're into sports, not only basketball. I mean, talking to people, I realize that they like football as well. It's just that we don't have a strong, let's say, football culture in our country, but people follow the Premier League and all that. And the EuroLeague is, I would say, during the regular season, in the past few years, I felt that people are getting more and more into EuroLeague, not only to Zalgiris games, but EuroLeague in general
as well.
Because like, when we had that old format of EuroLeague with group stages and top 16, people didn't really care too much about other games except Zalgiris. Now with this format, it's so exciting that people talk not only about Zalgiris, they talk about Zvezda, they talk about Monaco, they talk about Baskonia and all the others. So that's really nice. That's really nice for me.
Talking about those other teams you mentioned, we are going to talk about most of them probably in this podcast, because we are going to talk about trade ideas for the EuroLeague, because the transfer window is right around the corner. Teams can finally swap players who already played in the EuroLeague, so they are available to play for them after January. But before we do that, we have to announce that BasketNews.com is on Threads now as well. Threads is like, how would you describe Threads? It's like Twitter on Instagram, something like that. And since they are finally here in Europe, Basket News as well are starting on this platform too, because we don't want to be the last guys to arrive on the train. We want to be the first ones with innovation. So follow Basket News on Threads too. If you have that, there will be a lot of content there as well. We are almost on all platforms, so don't miss out. And probably the first topic that we have to talk about is the trade scenario that was rumored around on Twitter a lot during this weekend. And most of European media actually reported it, that Nick Calates might go to Milano Olimpia. Keenan Evans from Zalgiris would go to Fenerbahce, and Kevin Pangos would join Zalgiris. And a lot of European media reported it. Basket News chose to not report it for obvious reasons, because it didn't look, at least for me, I don't have any insider information. We have a guy who's not here with us today who knows more, but to me, it didn't make any sense. Like the trade, especially for Zalgiris, seemed like it was pushed by Turkish or Greek media that wanted more. I would say the Turkish media, because they simply want Keenan Evans on their team, and they see the downfall of Zalgiris, all the stuff that it's happening with the head coaches, whether Trinkieri is coming or not, because Maksidis is staying. Zalgiris, a lot of injuries. Maybe they're going to say, okay, we're done with this season. Maybe we're going to sell out everyone. But do you think it is even actually, does it make sense, this trade offer, without any additional money, just a straight player for player swap?
It doesn't really. And in general in Europe, I don't think trades happen very often. Usually it's like you release the player by some mutual agreement, he becomes a free agent, and then he joins that team. But this trade doesn't make sense for a couple of reasons. Well, first of all, the obvious winner of the trade is Fenerbahce. They're getting Keenan Evans, who just recently dropped 33 points in a EuroLeague game versus Partizan. I don't know if Nick Kalaidis is the right driver for Messina's car again. I mean, a non-shooting point guard. Okay, we know his abilities. He's a great passer. He's a great defender and all that. But it seems the way they play offense for Messina, the point guard has to be able to shoot from the pick and roll and even in ISO. So that doesn't make sense to me. Pangos to Zalgiris makes a little bit of sense, but it makes sense only if that's Pangos as an additional player next to Keenan Evans, not a swap. So I didn't believe that rumor at all. And especially knowing that Zalgiris had to deal with some stuff recently, I'm not sure they're in a position right now to move players from their roster, especially when we're talking about the key player. And it was nice to hear Coach Kaziz denying all the rumors about his buyout, because not only this trade was rumored on Twitter, but also some people started spreading information about his $300K buyout, which is a ridiculously low buyout for such a player, such a star player in Europe right now.
If Olympiacos paid $500K for Ignas Brazdeikis,
$300K for Evans, I mean, come on.
I know it's in the middle of the season, but still. And to me, why I didn't like, first of all, those reports, and why, I don't believe in any of Twitter rumors anymore in European media. I think, and I wrote on Twitter, like, it's absolute on all-time low, those Twitter rumors, European especially. Yeah. And I saw Danilo and Jusic as well tweeting that, Matthias Lesor commenting on that as well. Like, they're saying that you can't believe anything that's written these days. People just spreading misinformation left and right. They want to be first, and I think that's a really big problem. You're trying to get, 200, 300 likes, a little bit of clout for just trying to be the first, not really caring, if you are right most of the time, because some of these guys, that are writing, I started to keep screenshots from some of those tweets in the summer, because we are keeping tabs on players, how they're doing, but we are not keeping track on those rumors that have been spread across Europe. And
that, I mean,
it's just how would Zalgiris, people in Kaunas would boycott near Zalgiris Arena if you're giving back Keenan Evans right now.
They have sold outs until March, I think. If they just sold Keenan Evans right now, people would start asking for refunds.
People would not show up, and if you sell like Keenan Evans for $300K, you would lose more money from ticket sales in those last 5 or 6 games that you have in Kaunas.
Look, if I'm in Zalgiris' position, and if there are any negotiations happening about Keenan Evans leaving the team during the season, and there is no buyout clause in his contract, I'm thinking, okay, if somebody comes up with an offer for more than €1 million, maybe I'll consider it. Because, Zalgiris is a low-budget team in EuroLeague context, a lower budget, let's say, not low, but lower budget team. And so if you can make a profit of €1 million or more, then you might consider, because, Keenan Evans, if he continues playing the way he's playing right now, he will be too expensive for Zalgiris to keep. I mean, after the season, he will probably leave as a free agent. So if I can cash in right now, but I'm talking serious cash.
How much? So $500K is not enough?
No.
1 million?
Million and above.
Okay.
€1 million or above if I'm selling him. So then, of course, the fans could also accept it. Like, that's in European basketball, it's big money. And then you're thinking about Pangos or somebody else. But if it's just a swap or a ridiculous 300K buyout, then it doesn't make any sense. So I think right now Keenan is focused on playing for Zalgiris, and the coach just denied all the rumors, and I hope he stays for the rest of the season. Whatever Zalgiris achieves this season, it's hard to predict, but they definitely need Keenan Evans desperately, because he's just, in some games, he's just like dragging this team on his shoulders, and of course other teams are interested. Who wouldn't want to have a top scorer right now in their team? And especially if we're talking about, let's say, a team that now has a new coach, and maybe that coach wants to change something in the roster.
Absolutely. Sarunas Jasikevicius wants some additions as well. And, for people out, Zalgiris are an easy target. They're losing. They have some problems with the head coach, so who knows? But what if I told you that Zalgiris are getting another player from Milano, and whether that's Devin Hall, Alex Poitras, Johannes Voigtman? I'm not sure how much Milano would be willing to give up him, but Devin Hall or Alex Poitras, if you add a second guy next to Kevin Pangos, would you make this trade? And which guy would you choose?
I'm not taking Poitras because he's too similar to Kevarius Hayes. I think he has like similar qualities. Maybe he's more consistent and more valued in Europe than Hayes, but they're similar type of centers. So I'm not taking him. But if it's Devon Hall and Kevin Pangos, well, we could have a talk. I mean,
without money,
I would want some money, obviously, but if we're at the table negotiating and I'm representing Zalgiris, I'm also asking for money. But because my arguments would be to let's say Milano, that guys, you don't need Pangos. You want to get rid of his contract. So it's not like you're offering to me a player that you value. You don't value him. You just like literally put him away from the team. He's not playing. So that's one. Second thing is that Devon Hall, I believe in him. I believe that he's a great scorer, but he hasn't been that great for Milan for the last a year and a half, I would say. So again, a player with a little bit decreased value. So if you give me these two guys, then 200K, 300K, I'd take it, because you're getting players with legit EuroLeague experience. Pangos will need some time to get in rhythm, but Devon Hall is playing, so he's in good shape. So he could help the team straight away. So yeah, in this case,
like if
I take it.
If Milano would give Johannes Voigtman, I don't believe that at all, because he's part of their best lineups, and he's a shooting big who can move very well. So
yeah,
I don't think he would be in any kind of hypothetical even scenario. So I would also choose Devon Hall, but I don't think if Pangos and Hall are in Zalgiris, I don't think they are actually converting immediately to wins more than with Keenan Evans, because Keenan knows the system. Keenan has been playing. Who knows in what shape is Kevin Pangos, because he hasn't played because he had a lot of injuries recently, as you mentioned. So Zalgiris is in a tough position, and I don't think any trade with them is happening. They need just to add another player
for sure,
and not trade their best guy at the moment when they're in this difficult situation. So
they are bringing in new players,
guys,
like Edmond Sumner, Austin Hollins, but Austin Hollins has a 3-week contract, and for him probably this double game week is crucial, like to prove that
he looked good already in the first week.
I agree.
I did not expect as much from him as he showed.
I agree. I didn't see the game in Lithuanian League, but I heard people saying that he was pretty good.
Yeah, he was good. Good.
So in my opinion, Zalgiris probably should keep him for the rest of the season. If they can obviously reach an agreement with the player, but if the player was willing to sign a 3-week contract, then probably his goal is to stay.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Austin Hollins is an experienced EuroLeague player. I would love to see him with Zalgiris for the rest of the season. With Sumner, you need some time, some patience. He's still learning, obviously. So yeah, and I agree that ideally they should sign another player, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, let's leave Zalgiris a little bit from these conversations. Let's go to our trade ideas.
Yeah.
For the EuroLeague, because the transfer window is right around the corner. And I can start with my first trade, and it involves two teams. It involves actually one team that we already mentioned on this podcast, Fenerbahce, and another team is Olympiacos Piraeus. And when I mention these two teams, which player comes to your mind first? Is there
Dorsey?
Yep. And
the guy with the Greek passport.
The guy with the Greek passport, and Olympiacos need a scorer, The Greek, come on, Olympiacos fans, just be honest for one time. You need a scorer. And I know that Alec Peters was not playing against Valencia, but how many more games like this where you just can't put the ball in the basket you will need to admit that a good one-on-one scorer is needed, and Tyler Dorsey knows the environment there. So I would trade, and from Fenerbahce's point of view, you have Scotty Wilbekin and Tyler Dorsey at the same time. You have Marko Guduric as well, who we mentioned on this podcast probably will have a bigger role under Jasikevicius. So I would trade Tyler Dorsey to Olympiacos, and in return to Fenerbahce, I would probably ask from Nigel Williams-Goss. And since you want to ship out Nick Kalatis to somewhere, or
if they do, because we don't know that.
Yeah, if they do, then Nigel Williams-Goss, tall point guard, who fits probably next to anyone on that roster with his defense. He can knock down shots. He was amazing last year in the playoffs. He knows how to win, because he has seen it with Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And if you have high hopes for your team, you just need players in the locker room that also have done it. It just makes easier because he can be an example. He can give you, pep talks in difficult situations. And with Real Madrid, he has seen difficult situations. Just remember last year. So Fenerbahce also get a probably big guard for the point guard position, and Jasikevicius likes those. He likes players that can play really good defense, that can pressure. So he kind of, fits the image for Fenerbahce. And for Olympiacos, you get the scorer you badly need, someone who knows the system, someone who can knock down 6 3-pointers in any given night and just create one-on-one. And right now in Fenerbahce, he's not getting just enough minutes to do that. So in Olympiacos, there is Isaiah Keenan, who is playing amazingly this season, but I still think that they would benefit from someone who can score one-on-one. So I don't know if that makes sense to you, but those who are listening should write in the comments down below, what do you think about these trades that we are going to talk about? And if you have any potential trades, please also let us know in the comment section down below. It's always interesting to hear your opinions, and we could discuss that because we read those comments. So
for sure, man.
What do you think about this trade?
I always read all the comments. I usually reply to the nasty ones.
To the bad ones.
The bad ones, yeah. It's more fun that way.
Of course. What do you think about this trade? Dorsey, Williams,
this discussion would be so much easier if in EuroLeague we had draft picks. So we could add draft picks and even out every single trade scenario. But your idea sounds nice, actually, because one more reason you didn't mention, and I just thought of it right now, because we have to probably alert all the people. We don't know each other's trades. We didn't reveal that before the podcast, so we're just reacting on the spot. When Saras was coaching Zalgiris, Nigel Williams-Goss was pretty high on the list.
right.
when they were searching for a point guard.
Every summer he was mentioned.
He was one
basically
of the top candidates. Saras wanted him. That's what I've heard from a lot of people, and I think it was even in the media. So from that point of view, it makes sense. Dorsey to Olympiacos makes sense because of reasons you've mentioned. It's a good trade. I would give it like an 8 out of 10.
But you would need some draft picks, probably going to the Fenerbahce way, right?
A couple of second-round draft picks.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm thinking,
what do you have?
Which one should I start with? Okay, you said enough about Zalgiris, but
you want to stick.
I'm gonna carry on talking about Zalgiris and Keenan Evans, and I made up a scenario that to me makes more sense than the ones we've discussed. So it's gonna be a trade between Zalgiris and Zvezda.
Oh,
probably sounds crazy.
Shabazz.
Yeah, Shabazz is definitely involved. So Shabazz Napier goes to Zalgiris, but not only him. Rokas Giedraitis also goes to Zalgiris. We know how important for Zalgiris it is to have as many Lithuanian players as possible. And let's admit that there are not too many of them that actually meet the EuroLeague standards. And Rokas Giedraitis is a proven EuroLeague player. Žalgiris didn't replace Tignas Brazdeikis with someone who can actually play in as a shooting guard and as a small forward and help the team offensively. And now they're dealing with injuries as well. The injury, Sarunas Jasikevicius is out, Brady Manek is out, Ulanovas is playing 32 minutes. So Rokas Giedraitis would be a perfect fit for Žalgiris. Also, we're taking Shabazz. So Žalgiris is obviously taking two pretty big contracts in this.
If there are some Zvezda fans watching, they're probably saying right now, this guy has to give more than Keenan Evans back to Zvezda.
So
because Shabazz was one of the best point guards.
Obviously, Keenan Evans is on the table.
Okay.
Well, Shabazz is not performing the way people expected him to perform this season.
That's true.
I know he's having his struggles.
That's true.
So I'm giving them Keenan Evans, and now I'm thinking, should I give them like a $200K because Žalgiris probably has some money, or should I give them another player? But
what is
they don't really have anybody else to add, so I'm giving Keenan Evans in cash for these two guys. Because
what do Zvezda do with that $200K?
I don't know, man. It's cash. Buy Christmas gifts for your players. I don't know, man.
And we sign Austin Hollins and do a sign and trade.
Austin Hollins could be involved, sign and trade, if they want him.
He was there.
He was there already. Actually, when you said it, I didn't think of it, but that probably makes even more sense. Because Keenan Evans, look, so Zvezda has a lot of guards, right? Teodosic is playing good this season. Iago dos Santos, since Varopoulos arrived, is playing good. Nedovic had some really good performances recently, but Shabazz is underperforming. You still have some doubts. Who is their closer? Who's the guy who's taking over in the fourth quarter? If you have Keenan Evans, that problem solved. We agree on that.
You think that Osic wouldn't take those shots in the end?
Well,
I'm kidding.
Milos is Milos, but Keenan Evans, a prolific scorer, as I said, he just dropped 33 points versus Partizan last week. So, and Rokas Giedraitis, I know you wouldn't want to give him away, but probably he was the player that signed with Zvezda mainly because of Duško. That was the main reason why he signed with Zvezda. And there's no more Duško. I know he had a good game versus Albor right now, but since Varopoulos took over, he's playing a little less minutes. He's taking a little less shots. Maybe his role is lesser than it was with Duško in these first games. So why not? And Žalgiris would definitely accept a solid Lithuanian player.
Just I remembered last year that I think it was last year when Žalgiris needed a player, a point guard, because of injured Keenan Evans when he ruptured his Achilles. And there was rumors about Shabazz Napier coming to Kaunas. And then were some rumors that he denied, just not even considering it, because I think he was playing or not even playing. I don't know in the G League. I'm not sure at the moment.
Or Puerto Rico.
Somewhere. Yeah, he didn't play many games before coming to Milano.
Yeah, and
Zalgiris actually inquired about him.
Yeah, Coach Kazis actually said in one of his press conferences last season that there were some doubts about his shape, about his health, and they decided to make a less risky move and sign Isaiah Taylor, who was playing, and he became available.
Yeah, or Shabazz didn't show much, desire to come to Kaunas, because then he signed with Milano a couple of weeks later and just balled out completely.
Yeah,
so
he proved that he definitely can play.
I'm not sure how much he wants, to play, maybe here in Lithuania under this weather. We hadn't seen.
Maybe he doesn't. That's the problem with our trades. Like when you do trades in NBA, the player doesn't have a say. If they're sending you to Washington,
unless they have the trade clause, but it's like
only special players have
less
no
than
trade clauses.
10 players at the moment in the NBA right now.
If they're sending you to Washington, pack your bags and go.
You go to Washington.
So now, in our probably hypothetical world that we're creating here, players also don't have a say. If they're sending him to Kaunas, he's going to Kaunas.
You go to Kaunas, and there hasn't been a sunshine for last 2 weeks in Lithuania. So anyway, back to the point. Would Zvezda accept it? Keenan is a tall point guard as well, so he helps you a lot on the defensive side as well. And I think Zvezda would benefit from that highly. Zalgiris switch often with him, and he's pretty, I would say, above average and holding down those, fronting the center. So he's not only a one-sided offensive player, as it may seem for those who, watch the stats more, hasn't seen many Zalgiris games. So he's like a two-way player, and it's not an often sight in nowadays basketball, because offensive players have the workload, such a high usage rate offensively, that it has become a normality for those good offensive players to be a weakness defensively, just because they're running and they're doing so much offensively. It's not possible at the pace basketball is played at the moment. It is just simply not possible to be good on both sides of the court for many of those guys. But Keenan Evans is, I would say, a rare example, and his height helps a lot. So
in Zvezda, he would have a lot more help. He wouldn't have to take the load that he's taking right now in Kaunas.
Yeah,
he would have much more help creating and scoring.
So this trade would make some sense. Yeah, from both teams' point of view. But I also have a trade involving Shabazz Napier, and I'm sending Shabazz back where he was balling out last season, to Milano Olimpia. And why I'm choosing this is it's obvious.
Because he's texting his friends.
Because he's texting his friends, he wants to be in Milano, and it's an easy trade for me. I didn't have to think much about it. No, I'm kidding. So obviously, he liked Milano. He enjoyed playing there, because if you're not in a good mood, you don't play like Shabazz Napier was playing back in the last season. And also, Milano have something that Zvezda would probably benefit highly of. And despite them signing 17 forwards before the season, we have mentioned multiple times that they haven't really had one that's quality is, above average. And I would say that Napier going back to Milano and Zvezda getting, let's say, I wanted to say Nicola Melli, but probably since he's Italian, Milano are not.
He's the captain of the team.
He's the captain of the team. But, there's Mirotic.
I know.
You are perfect in the power forward spot.
I know. And that's why I have them in one of my trade scenarios as well. But I'm just thinking Nicola Melli.
No, they're not giving him up. They're not giving him up.
Team,
they're
Italian
not giving
player.
Him up. So, not giving him up for sure. So that's why, Alex Poitras and Kevin Pangos to Zvezda, I think,
2 for 1.
2 for 1. I really think Alex Poitras is absolutely underrated right now at the moment in the EuroLeague, because he's not getting that just simply much minutes there in Milano. And If he gets a bigger role, he will solve, some defensive issues for Zvezda. And, at the point guard spot, you have Jago, you have Milos, you have Pangos, who could have some time, coming back from injuries and just getting into the shape. And he could be a high-risk, high-reward player because we don't know how he looks at the moment. And maybe in a new environment with a different coach, he's, the Kevin Pangos that brought Barcelona to Game 5 in the EuroLeague playoffs. So, what would you say about this?
You would still have this issue of Jago, Pangos, Teodosic, all three are players that other teams want to expose on defense. But, I mean, okay, Alex Poitras is in, but then you have to sacrifice one of the guys that they have already. Maybe cut one of the bigs they have, like Mike Tobey.
I don't want to sound disrespectful to anybody, but why would you expect him to overperform when his best playing time was with Luka Doncic in the Slovenian national team when he was playing at the 5, stretching the floor?
Yeah.
Now you're putting him as power forward basically most of the time, so he's just another stretch forward. Stretch forward and stretch center is not the same thing. Like, stretch center is luxury, and for players like Luka, it's amazing because you have so much space, and then it becomes easier for everybody. And Mike Tobey played his best basketball when he was with Luka Doncic, and in the EuroLeague there is no Luka Doncic, so you just can't expect him to replicate what he has shown in those best outings. So I just thought Zvezda's ambitions and let's say what they expected from him were just simply too high.
Tobey for the last couple of years was in some interesting situations. Like Mirotic got injured last year. All of a sudden, there's Barcelona with an offer for Mike Tobey. If that Mirotic injury didn't happen, we wouldn't have seen Mike Tobey playing for Barcelona. And now he signed with Zvezda. There are so many other players at his position. You have to compete for your spot, for your minutes. In general, I think he's a good player, but I agree with you that Luka Doncic made him look so much better that he's getting these contracts right now. But okay, he's not in your trade scenario. I just thought that maybe Zvezda would have too many people on the roster.
And that's true.
If they get 2 for 1.
I expect them to make
Shabazz in Milan, that should help everyone. Yeah.
This is probably
I accept it. But I gave an 8 out of 10 for your first trade. For this one, maybe 6.
Okay.
I'm not that convinced.
This is like a win for Milano, win for Shabazz, right. And you're not that convinced for Zvezda's side, right?
So yeah, exactly. So staying in Milan, let's stay in Milan.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice city to stay in. I have a trade between Milan and Panathinaikos. Because, I'm thinking, okay, Dinos Mitoglou is playing amazing, but he's playing 35 minutes per game. They don't really have a backup for him. They're waiting for Juancho and Brandon Gomez to come back, but even when Juancho was playing, he was kind of a disappointment so far. I'm not saying that he will not play better right now, but it is what it is, and Papa Petru has been out for a long time. They're waiting for him. They have to put Grigonis so much at that third position. He's they're one of their top 3 players in minutes, I think. So I thought about possible trade scenarios of Panathinaikos to get, let's say, Luvavu Baro, but I couldn't come up with anything that makes sense for ASVEL Villabon to give up a French player. So Milan needs guards. It's obvious. They need guards. So first of all, I'm sending Kyle Guy to Milan because Billy Barron has been injured for a while, and Messina needs a shooter. He needs somebody who can play off ball and do those things that Billy Barron usually does. So Kyle Guy, I know that this season in EuroLeague we haven't seen much of him on Panathinaikos. There are some games where he just plays 2 or 3 minutes. But there's potential, definitely. If you saw him in Juventud Badalona, he's a good player. He's a good shooter. So I'm sending him. And also, right now, when Kendrick Nunn started playing really good basketball, and I'm starting to believe he can lead that team, and you have Slukas, obviously, as well, I think Luka Vildosa is like a luxury player for Panathinaikos to have right now, and they can afford to give him away. So I'm giving Luka Vildosa and Kyle Guy. And in exchange, I'm getting Johannes Voigtman to have a big guy who can stretch the floor, who can cover some minutes at the 4 position when Mitoglu needs a rest. Also, he can play as a 5 in certain scenarios. So maybe Balcerovski wouldn't get his minutes, but then you have Lazor and Voigtman also as an option to play as a 5. And when Juancho is back, he can start playing as a small forward more. And to me, things just balance perfectly for Panathinaikos. And for Milan, you're getting a point guard, a good shooter off pick and rolls, Luka Vildosa. We can remember what he did with Zvezda last season and the way he played before he left for the NBA when he was in Baskonia. And Kyle Guy, he's a shooter, and you're not risking probably taking his contract too much. So I don't know what you think. Do you think that maybe Milan wouldn't want to give away Voigtman? But again, as we said, you have Mirotic and Meli. It's not like if you give one of your forwards, you're in trouble.
Mirotic is now injured, for how long?
Now
he'll be injured for until February?
That's true. I didn't really take that into account. I'm just thinking about Mirotic as a player who is available for Messina, and Meli as well being there as a power forward option.
I love what this brings to Panathinaikos. Having Johannes Voigtman, having the front court of Matthias Lesor, Dinos Mitoglu, Johannes Voigtman, Balcerovski there as well too, and Juancho playing 3 but also 4 can fit in the 4 position. I would love to see this front court, because it's just such an interesting mix of defense, shooting, rim protection, and strength inside. They basically would have, with these 4 players, they would basically have covered all the boxes, in potential different offensive solutions, but on the defensive side of the court as well. So that would I think make Panathinaikos fans happy. From Milan's point of view, of course they just need guards. They just need guards. Luka Vildosa, when he has the green light, we know what he can do. Probably he would have that with this short rotations. But to me, this is where, having Nikola Mirotic is also, I don't know, like a blessing in disguise. I'm still not convinced, by that signing in the summer. I know they went for the best possible player in the market, but, we are talking about Nikola Meli, how he was important to that Milano team. Voigtman, how he was important to that Milano team. And they were basically a lineup with Meli and Voigtman in the front court, and with Shabazz there, was the best in all EuroLeague, I think, when they played last season all together. And they were just simply fantastic. And now with Mirotic there, Voigtman is getting less minutes. Meli was averaging 3.5 points to start the season for the first six games. But at the same time, you don't want to, if you're Milano, you don't want to give up these guys up.
You don't. Yeah,
they're not playing that much, but at the same time, you don't want.
That's why we are thinking of trades that make sense basketball-wise, but not necessarily the clubs would be happy to accept those.
I would give this trade a really high grade. I don't know, 8, 9 probably, and it's just that European trades are so hard to make when you don't have draft picks, cash. You can send cash considerations, but those draft picks is what makes it interesting.
That's true. I mean, and we're talking in the middle of the season when there's injuries and everything else. It would be easier to discuss, let's say, before the season begins. When we emphasize that, this team still needs a point guard, or this team still needs a forward, a 3-and-D guy. They are still in the market searching, because usually when the season starts, some of the teams are still in the market searching for players to add. So right now, teams are searching maybe for players that can improve the roster, that can help with an injury crisis or something like that. And we're talking about healthy players who are performing at a good level, and we're just swapping teams,
Right. I have so many thoughts about that Milano roster that I include again them in my potential another scenario. And maybe this would make more sense to you and to our listeners. I would send Kyle Hines to Efes because they need rim protection. And I would just give Rodrigue Beaubois to Milano.
Rodrigue Beaubois.
And I don't know if that makes sense.
Man, I love Rodrigue Beaubois in Efes so much.
I do too.
For me, it's so hard to imagine him right now on any other team.
I do too. Like Kyle Hines also. Yeah. One of my favorite players. Both, I enjoy watching them for very different reasons. But Kyle Hines and that front court rotation, with the way Efes needs a defensive anchor there under the rim, I think he would fit so well there perfectly. After Brian Dunstan left, they're still looking for that constant defensive anchor in the paint. And despite his age, Kyle Hines is still one of the best guys there. Rim protection, it would probably mean that Will Clyburn could play small forward more too. It was extremely hard for me to understand what Efes would need to give back to Milano there, because they have so many. They don't have a lot of players in their backcourt, and Elijah Bryant is injured. A lot of guys are injured there, so I just thought, okay, Milano need a guard. Rodrigue Beaubois, both are veteran players, but can contribute right away. Like Beaubois knows how to play with the ball, off the ball. He plays good defense as well, so that would fit, Messina's style. And I don't know. It's just like win-win, it seems to me, for both teams. But it would be so hard to imagine both of those guys, Kyle Hines with Efes jersey and Rodrigue Beaubois with Milano jersey. That would look weird for 1 month, that's 2 months, or maybe even until the end of the season.
Those two that I brought on the table, these were the ones that I carefully prepared, and there was a lot of thought process whether it makes sense or not. And then, because Donatas gave us a task to prepare 3 trades.
Yep.
And I couldn't come up with the third one that would make sense. So I'm just going to ask you, and maybe you can help me.
Okay.
I want to improve Monaco. Obviously, I want them to improve.
Right.
So I'm thinking that Mam Jaite is barely playing in the EuroLeague, but he's a strong guy. It's a big body, a big center. He had an okay season, I would say, in Virtus Bologna. But for Monaco, it seems like, okay, they signed him because he's French. Maybe he's playing more in the French league. I don't follow them in the French league that much, but you have Dimo. You have Dante Hall. You can put Peter Corneli as a 5, which Sasha Obradovic sometimes does. So I don't see how Mam Jaite is that important to them. So who do you think I could get for him in the market? Let's say, which team do you think could benefit from a strong center like Jaite right now?
Virtus Bologna.
Virtus Bologna.
Ironic as it may sound, but I don't know. It's just you caught me on the spot, and it was
bring
like
him
the
back
first
to Virtus, right?
Bring him back to Virtus. Why not?
But then, what do I get from Virtus Bologna? Because definitely Monaco don't need guards.
You need shooting.
You need people who can shoot, right?
No, from Virtus.
What can they offer? Dobric?
But it's another.
I mean, you have Diallo, you have
Jordan Mickey is there, who's shooting lights out, I think, this season from the free.
They wouldn't swap Jordan Mickey for Mamjite. No. I would need to add someone.
Probably. Oh, after the Zalgiris game, he made only 6 threes after Jordan Mickey. He's like 9 from 21.
Yeah, he just started
for the season.
Started the season with good shooting numbers. So it's just an idea, man. Maybe you see how difficult it is to come up with something? Because I was thinking about it. Okay, I'm trading Mamjite, and what do I get?
But it's true. Like with Dante Hall, Demo, even last season, it was more than enough in this rotation. For sure. Now you have Peter Cornerly.
Let's admit that in some cases you can small ball with John Brown as your 5.
And with now Peter Cornerly, you would have shooting at the 5. At the 5. So I'm trying to think which other team would do this trade.
Just have that in mind, okay? And we can carry on with
maybe someone in the comment section could help us.
Help us trade Mamjite.
We want to improve Monaco because Monaco's.
I want him to win the EuroLeague, so I have to improve the roster.
I have 2 more. These are more like trades because of my sympathy for some of the guys, and probably Villeurbanne as well would not agree with this trade because I would send Nando De Colo to Partizan Belgrade.
Ooh. Okay.
Give Nando another shot at a title. Hashtag. I'm hashtagging this trade. Give Nando another shot at a title. It's I don't know what ASVEL would accept. Probably they wouldn't accept any of these. They would accept 3 first-round draft picks from Belgrade Partizan, Ognjen Jaramaz, Danilo Njusic, and I don't know, some cash and some second-round picks to make this happen. But just I want to see Nando De Colo trying to win another title, going for his 3rd one. He could come off the bench, have a way more limited role for Partizan, be the immediate impact, for the second unit, and has the championship pedigree. If Partizan is playing, how Partizan is playing right now at the moment, they are definitely going to be a contender for the Final Four. So having Nando De Colo with his knowledge, with his presence, with his veteran tricks, how to draw fouls, how to make easy shots from the free throw line. That would make Partizan's already insane offense.
You didn't answer yet the most important part. What do these guys in Villeurbanne get? Do they get something?
Jaramaz and Njusic. And Nah,
man.
Ponitka?
Come on.
Ponitka?
I would love to see you making this offer to Gianmarco Pozzecco. Like you can approach Gianmarco Pozzecco and say, look, give away Nando De Colo for a couple of role players from Serbia.
They gave Nico Mannion from Baskonia.
Yeah, but they didn't give up Nando De Colo for that.
No, I mean...
Okay, it's nice that you have this idea about the Colo.
Winning as I said, this is not a real serious trade offer.
It's nice that you're thinking and caring about him so much.
That's why I started, from sympathy.
I honestly think, and maybe it's just, maybe it might be a wrong thought and a wrong thing to say, but in my opinion, since Nando De Colo obviously wants to play in Paris Olympics and wants to win a medal with France, it's actually better for him not to have a deep EuroLeague run with all the quarterfinal series, Final Four, and everything else. And then if you play for Partizan, it's also ABA League versus Zvezda, the crazy eternal derby. It's probably better for him to be in ASVEL, to sometimes maybe skip one of the double game week matches that they play, to sometimes have more rest.
They'll start doing that in January.
Let's be real. His priority right now is Paris 2024.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so you rejected this trade as an unofficial ASVEL general manager?
I rejected it from two of the 3 sides that we're talking about. Partizan, I accept. but the Colo declines and ASVEL declines as well.
Okay.
Come up with something better.
I don't have a counter offer at the moment.
Okay, man.
But another player that I would like to see, switch teams, and this would probably mean just a buyout, not even a trade, is Jaleen Smith.
Yeah.
Who is struggling to find rotation minutes in Virtus Bologna. But we all know he's a great player, and
for sure
there are a lot of teams in the EuroLeague who could benefit from a guy who could score.
And he's also a good defender.
So Milano, Zalgiris, Kaunas.
I would love to see him in Kaunas.
I would love to see him in Kaunas as well too. So #free Jaleen Smith, and guy can hoop. Many teams, I will repeat myself. Many teams would be happy to see him in the uniform, and it's another reason why this transfer window, I think, needs to start earlier, because it was obvious he's not really finding his minutes in Bologna very early in the season, and he doesn't play, but he still has to wait until January 15th, I think, to start playing for another team in the EuroLeague, and he's definitely a EuroLeague material. So.
Yeah, I agree completely. Jaleen Smith.
Okay, Zalgiris, Milano. Do you have any other teams in mind who would benefit from him?
Well, Alba Berlin would. His forward team, definitely they would.
It's like Mam Jaite.
But I actually thought about him in Kaunas, and that could be a great fit.
I also think that, and I think Zalgiris were interested in him, or not interested, but. Just like Nigel Williams.
I think it was that summer when they signed Moutier. Smith was one of the candidates, maybe.
Could be.
I'm not sure if I remember correctly, but yeah.
So I think we are done with our trade ideas. Yep. As I said, let us know in the comment section down below which one makes the most sense, or if you have any other your ideas. And we should probably talk about Fener Monaco game first. Just some short thoughts, and probably the highlight of the game was Mike James getting that technical.
I'd say it was a low light.
Yeah, it's probably the more correct term.
Look, man, I mean, that technical is such a dumb call. I mean,
I felt like I'm watching the NBA, and somebody got a technical for hanging on the rim, which was not even hanging on the rim, but he pulled himself to save himself from falling down, and that was a technical.
Or maybe the good old Tim Duncan getting a T for laughing on the bench.
Right.
No, I mean, there are no rules that not allow a player to celebrate his shot. The only cases where you get a technical for celebrating is if you do it in your opponent's face, if you do it, let's say, pointing to the other team's bench. Like Mikal Bridges got a technical in World Cup because he was doing his usual 3-point celebration, but he was doing it straight to Datome's face on Team Italy bench. So
this much.
Yeah, so okay, that's a technical. I agree. Mike James just made a big shot, a difficult shot, and he ran to the other side of the court celebrating with 3 fingers. And he was not showing that to any of his opponents. He was not disrespecting anybody. It's just a normal thing to do, normal reaction, and then technical out of nowhere. I just couldn't digest that one, and I would love to hear the explanations from the refs. What did they see and why they gave the technical?
Maybe they misinterpreted the sign. I have no idea, but please, EuroLeague, if you're watching, don't make this a league where you call these soft-ass technical fouls for the players for celebrating.
Yeah.
I hate when in the NBA they make a poster dunk of the season, and simply because for having a mean mug face to your opponent, you're getting a technical. Yeah. I just hate that.
And the player should be able to, let's say, join the conversation with the crowd. Like, we're talking about Isaiah Cannon's shush in Barcelona up until this day as a great thing that happened, and we loved it. So if the player wants to, let's say, show that he's made a 3-pointer playing away from home to the crowd, showing like, look, guys, you see, we're not giving up on this game. I'm in. It's great. There's no harm in it. So I hope it never happens again. I mean, that was the dumbest call of the year so far.
What did you thought about just Fenerbahce winning that game?
Yeah.
Saras was there for 24 hours, basically.
Yeah.
And he basically himself mentioned that it was still, I didn't do anything. It was these guys that won the game, and we all know how Fenerbahce were playing good at home. So what did you see anything from that game?
A well-deserved win, first of all. They were the better team on the night. Actually, if they made some of the shots that they created, some of the open looks, it could have been an easier win because they only had a 1-point advantage after the first half because of Mike James, some difficult shots that he made in the last minutes of the second quarter. But Fenerbahce just couldn't make their own shots. So they easily could have been up by 10 or 12 going to the locker room. But in the end, a well-deserved win. One thing that definitely stood out is the 17 offensive rebounds. And I think Saras in the post-game interview said something like, we're a tall team, and I expect this to become one of our strengths. So there's probably going to be an emphasis on the offensive rebound, because in this game they had height advantage in 2 or 3 positions almost all the time on the court, and they managed to use that. Like Nick Kalaitis as your point guard, he grabbed 4 or 5 offensive rebounds. All the other guys were helping as well. After the game, Sasha Obradovic was angry because his players couldn't box out properly. So the 17 offensive rebounds shows that these guys were they were locked in. They were fighting for every ball. And other than that, we saw what we expect from Fenerbahce this season, like Nigel Hayes-Davis being one of the key players. Daishon Pierre got into foul trouble. It didn't help him. But one thing that I liked is when Monaco put Kemba Walker in the lineup, Saras was playing with Yamadar. So immediately they were involving Kemba Walker to every pick and roll, and Yamadar had some good moments offensively when Kemba was in the court. So we know that Saras always emphasizes all the mismatches, all the strengths and weaknesses of the opposing team. I know that in 24 hours he didn't create a new system. It would be ridiculous to think that he did.
But you could say that, involve Kemba Walker in every possession.
Yeah, some like, let's say,
many adjustments
principles like before the game in your pregame speech, like you emphasize what Monaco has and where should we attack. And in general, they were really aggressive. Like the new coach, when there's a new coach, first of all, it's not about the system, about the playbook, about the rotations that will change in time. But first of all, it's about the, let's say, fighting spirit and players wanting to prove to the new coach their value to the team. And I could feel that. I mean, in general, it was a good basketball game for Fenerbahce. And with better shooting percentages, they could have won it by a bigger margin. Scotty Wilbekin was like 1 from 7, and most of his shots were open looks.
And just for the record, Fenerbahce were averaging just 10.2 offensive rebounds. You mentioned they had 17, and we talked about how Jasikevicius will try to emphasize that, because he said, like, we have a tall team, and that's true. You have Guduric, you have Daishon Pierre, Nigel Hayes-Davis.
You have size at almost every position.
So I'm interested to see how this average will grow, and I'm excited to see what Jasikevicius brings to this team.
And the only thing I cannot right now predict his rotation of centers. Like in this game, Sertac Shanli had some problems defensively, especially on the first possessions versus Motiejunas in the post. Motley, again, he's always getting into foul trouble. So there's a lot of work for Saras with the centers. Actually, all the other guys, they're experienced. They know how to play. I don't think you need to change that much, but The center position, I have some question marks. Papayan is injured; he didn't play. But Motley and Shanli, there's a lot of work to do. Like, I hope he helps as a coach for Motley to become a better player, maybe to make a step forward. But Shanli, he had him in Barcelona.
He knows what he can do.
He knows what he can do, and he knows his limitations, let's say.
Speaking about offensive excellence, we cannot not mention Partizan's performance in Kaunas. 58 points in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. The most Zalgiris have allowed this season in the first half. Real Madrid had scored 53, but it was an away game for Zalgiris. Partizan scored 58 points in an away game this season. From my perspective, this was probably the most beautiful 20 minutes of offense I've seen this season. And as I mentioned, I don't know, 5 weeks ago probably, when Bruno Caboclo signed, Partizan season started just then. And with him on the court, they look like a completely different team. With Kevin Punter is back playing his best. Although that some of the shots he got against Zalgiris were the easiest shots of the season for Kevin Punter, because Zalgiris were simply hedging not only Kevin, but PG Dozier and James Nunnally in the pick and roll. And, they were kind of doing that automatically. And Partizan simply attacked short roll pass, 4v3 situation immediately, pass, extra pass, Kevin Punter, James Nunnally making 3-pointers. Kevin Punter able to dribble the ball after catching it and even releasing it before a player comes to contest his shot. So that's not usual, but yeah, that's how your offense works, because PJ Dozier is playing amazingly the last 5 or 6 games on both sides of the court, but I would say his confidence in offense especially is showing. They were aggressive on the offensive glass as well, and it was really, Partizan's offense impressed me, even though at the same time some Zalgiris defensive choices could also be questioned. So what did you see from that game? What just one thing that impressed you the most, or one player? Or
I agree with you. I mean, it was just beautiful offense. The ball movement, when you have 2 extra passes for the perfect shot, you sacrifice a good shot, then you sacrifice a great shot for the perfect shot. I mean, it's just amazing to see, and the way these guys click together. Some could say they don't have a typical point guard, but it's just a cliche. Željko Obradović is just proving you don't need that. There's players who create, there's players who can shoot, there's players who set screens, the bigs, the forwards, the guards, and there's no such thing as a classical point guard. It's outdated. Forget about it. PJ Dozier is becoming a star in EuroLeague recently, and they signed him as a replacement for Dante Exum. And the way he's playing right now, I mean, he's a guy that I wouldn't be surprised to see getting a triple-double on some night if he's playing 32 35 minutes. Although that week, Cody Miller-McIntyre was really close to a triple-double.
2 rebounds.
Shout out to him. But some other things, of course, from Zalgiris side, like you have Edmond Sumner, who's a EuroLeague rookie, doesn't have EuroLeague experience. He's not familiar with James Nunnally, probably, who's a 50, 60, 90 club member, and like he's going from the weak side to help, leaving Nunnally completely open in the corner, and then on the closeout he fouls him, and that's a 3-and-1 play. And Partizan actually scored 9 points from 2 possessions, because there was this 3-and-1 play, and there was I think Punter's 3-pointer with also Schmitz fouling Vukcevic under the basket.
Someone under the basket.
And he made 2 free throws. So twice Edmond Sumner committed to weak side help from James Nunnally, and from these 2 situations, Nunnally scored 7 points. You don't do that. It's James Nunnally, man. He's probably the best spot-up shooter.
But at the same time,
right
if you hedge on Kevin Punter up top, there has to be help inside.
It's true, but I mean, then the coaches have to adjust the game plan if you see that it's not working.
They started switching.
They were punished too much. They were punished. Of course, in the second half, things changed, but the game was already away from Zalgiris, and they made a couple of runs, that nice run in the third quarter, but Partizan managed to respond. And another thing is their starting lineup. When you start with Caboclo, Lede, and Smilagic.
Yep. Zach Lede at the 3.
So
they started with this lineup also against Milano.
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense because you have such big lineups by both Zalgiris with Olanovs at the 3 trying to post up a lot.
He couldn't post up.
You just immediately negate this advantage.
Exactly. Whether it's Smilagic or Lede, it doesn't matter who's the 3 and who's the 4 or defensively.
Lede can defend Olanovs in the post for sure. But he's also quick to defend him on the perimeter, and against him on the offense, he can post him up because who is Olanovs going to guard?
Actually, Smilagic posted up Birutis. Smilagic in that lineup is like a 3 or a 4, and Birutis is the tallest guy in Zalgiris, and Smilagic just
I would say
scored in the post
in that lineup. We are going to wrap it up, but
I mean, it depends on the matchup.
Smilagic is like, for me, is 5, Caboclo 4, Lede 3.
But it just depends on the matchups.
It really doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter, right?
Like we said, Partizan are playing without a point guard, a real point guard.
Positionless basketball. You're just playing to your player's strengths.
But they have the number 1 offense last year and number 2 offense this season. And whatever defense Zalgiris were playing, hedge or switch, they were just killing it. So
the only thing for me is like Caboclo, if he can improve on 2 things, his concentration. Sometimes he loses his concentration, like he doesn't box out. Danielius Lavrinovic has managed to snatch an offensive rebound in a very simple situation where Caboclo just didn't box out. And the second thing is staying out of foul trouble. So if he can in time improve these things, and I'm sure working with Jelko he will, well, he's going to be one of the top centers in this league. And Partizan, they're a scary team. And they're still without some players. Alex Avramovic is out. Uroš Trifunovic is out. Who else? They had 3 players injured, I think.
Who else? Kaminsky.
Frank Kaminsky also.
Frank Kaminsky.
Let's admit an important player.
Let's not forget about him. One of the last 2 topics, Olympiacos in EuroLeague had a racial incident where one fan had some comments about the referee, and EuroLeague and Olympiacos banned him basically, which I'm really happy for, that they were able to identify the person who did that very quickly. Actually, I think Olympiacos banned him a couple of hours after the game, which to me it's like a pretty hard thing to do. Like, either the referee pointed him out to the guys that are writing the stats at the table, but anyway, EuroLeague banned this guy for life. Olympiacos also said that they're not going to allow him to any of those games for life. So I'm really happy about this. What I'm not happy about is that still racism is a big issue in the European basketball scene. And, I think, and a lot of players probably will admit that this is happening almost more or less on every night. And we would kind of need these measurements after every game. Is just that, I don't know, or players are not trying to do anything about it because the teams itself can't just see what people are shouting. So
sometimes maybe it doesn't even get to players, but if you've been in the stands in some of these arenas, you can hear some of the fans talking racist bullshit all the time, and it's a shame. It's bad on the image for the club, for the league, for everybody. And one thing that is disgusting to me is that there is a random dude watching a basketball game, and he's trying to insult successful people who worked hard to be in these positions, whether it's a referee or a basketball player. They achieved a lot in their life, and he's sitting there, he's thinking he's better than them because he's white. Like, motherfucker, get some help. Honestly, to anyone who's thinking like that Olympiacos fan, I wouldn't even want to call him a fan. He's definitely not a fan of the game. So, I mean, it's just disgusting. It's great that EuroLeague reacted and Olympiacos reacted, and in the future, I hope that, let's say, when there's something like this, people will help to identify the person that needs to be punished. Like, maybe even other people watching the game, other fans, could call the security and say, look, this guy, we just heard him say this, and that, and it's not going to be tolerated.
That's the community
that's the way it should be.
For.
That's the way it should be. And it doesn't even matter where it is, whether it's in Kaunas, in Belgrade, in Athens, Milan, or any other city or country.
I just remember, to probably close this topic off, I just remember one poster that a black kid was holding during the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
There was like this, I don't know, little kid, 6 or 7 years old, and he was holding a sign which was said, when do I go from cute to monkey or whatever? Like, at what age? Because usually, you know, kids are cute for everybody. But when you grow up, and if you're black, you sometimes, get called with all these words that you're not supposed to get called. And to me, this was such a way. You don't, let's say, you are not born a racist, but you are, told to be a racist at some point of the age. And to me, that poster was like, okay, this is like what should be shown to a lot of people that, are tolerating this bullshit. And when really this kid go from cute to be called this? So I was like, okay, this is really a nice way that a lot of people should see this poster.
I don't know what else to say, man. I mean, some people just need to get educated.
Right. Okay, guys. I think that was it. Podcast is done without Donatas.
Somehow we
managed to do it. Don't forget to like this video, comment about our trade offers in the comment section down below, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you guys.